Welcome, everybody. Today's webinar is Controlling Food Costs with Confidence using Meez. I'm Sarah. I'm Director of Customer Success and Support here at Meez, and I am joined today by two of our Customer Success Managers. You know them, you love them. Doug, we'll start with you.
Hey everybody, Doug here. I'm sure a lot of you have seen my face or heard my name or even talked to me before. Um, been customer success here at Meez for about 4 years now, and generally just helping people get to know the app, learn how to use it to their best of their abilities, and use the kind of learnings we're going to go over today to really make sure that you're coming away with some results from using it. So yeah, excited to join this conversation. Sergio.
Hey everybody, my name is Sergio, and again, if you've been with Meez for a while, I might have been the guy who sold you Meez, and I am now in the customer success side of things. So now I'm the guy to help you onboard and figure out all things Meez as we move forward and how to use this powerful tool for your business. I come from a background of restaurants most of my life, over 25 years. Kitchens, front of house, but also working in wholesale purchasing, in wholesale distribution, specialty food imports as well.
Beautiful. Okay, so before we dive in, a couple of quick housekeeping items. The chat, again, is open. So if you were here last time and you got crickets as a response, that was my fault. It's all set now. And we do have a question and answer segment at the end. So if you do want to put like specific questions to be answered in the Q&A section at the bottom of the Zoom, we will get to those at the end and we'll be monitoring as we go. And yes, this webinar is being recorded, so you'll get the replay after. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here. We know what it's like to be working in your business and then need to find the time to actually work on your business. And that's really where the impact is made. It can be so difficult to really get a picture of what's happening when you're caught up in the hustle and the bustle of the food business. And today we're here to talk about actionable things that you can take with you to start implementing and improving your metrics. I wanted to, my goal here is for everybody to take one thing, even if you just take one thing from this webinar today and implement it. We hope to help you improve metrics one way or another. Okay, so let's jump in. Food cost control has always been critical, but in today's industry and macroeconomic climate, with slim margins and high variability in costs and labor, it's absolutely essential. So I think we get into the high stakes of this, right, Doug?
Yeah. I think we should start off by talking about the stakes and how even small improvements in food costs. I mean, we're talking 1 to 2% even. As I'm sure all of you know, over the course of a year can mean thousands and thousands of dollars. So how do we actually get there, and what do we have to navigate in order to achieve that 1 to 2%?
Yep. Operators are facing unpredictable vendor pricing, price fluctuations that can be a roller coaster, or you might be seeing them happening gradually. I touched on this last week from my days in wholesale and in imports. We're all very aware that imports in particular are getting hit with some steep price increases, tariffs, of course, that situation. And it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to see a 30% increase because vendors aren't dumb. They're going to be slowly jacking up the price on you little by little on these ingredients that they know they're going to be paying significantly more for. So it's important to keep an eye now more than ever, or now as much as it was 4 years ago, because I think we're all suffering a little PTSD of the pandemic, pricing and supply chain issues.
Oh gosh, so just hearing supply chain, like as a restaurant owner, I never thought about like that term until COVID. Which maybe that was on me, but anyway, this is why Meez is here, right? Like we take all of the details, your ingredient costs, your yields, your prep actions, the methods, we set up the training, and that is all to create actionable steps at every point of service and allow you to have more control over what is happening. So I think we talk about, I heard the word control that I said, and my brain went, oh, control. and then I went down an entire different path. Anyway, so I think one of the areas that we want to talk about is over portioning, right? Like speaking of control, portion control. I think Doug, you touched on this last webinar about how when you were on the line, you were like not sure how much was enough when it came to plating. So one of the ways that you can fix that, or at least control for that, maybe you can't control every aspect, but control for that, is to have better training along with better tools. And what does that really mean in Meez? And I think this comes down to, standardized plating guides, like more than a build card on the wall, if it's that type of a place. Visual recipes that the staff can learn before they even get to the line. And Serge, I think you were gonna show us a couple of
Yeah, of course. So was just looking here for the same recipe. You guys remember this if you were here last week. So we have our pizza margarita recipe here written out in the unit
Sergio,
12.
I think you need to share. I'm not seeing it.
Oh, thank you, Doug.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay.
Nope.
Nope, you went away.
Sorry.
There you go.
All right. So as I have a pizza recipe here that maybe I want to convert from my all my metric units of measure, which I basically have already done. I had this in metric units and moved it over to convert it to the units that we want to see. So obviously in metric units, this would be maybe I've written my whole recipe, and many of you have this level of detail in your recipes because this is, historically how classically trained chefs have created their recipes, with everything showing in metric units, which is what's going to give you the most precision, of course, and also the most control over adding, a couple more grams or subtracting. And this is great, of course, as this is how you've been tracking your recipes. Consistency and weight measures are the most accurate way to get that. The only problem here is that when we're creating a visual plating guide recipe for our team, when they get to the parts of adding tomato sauce, 45.8 grams, adding cheese at 81.9 grams, and this is happening in the middle of service on the line when it's busy and hot. This is where it makes a lot of sense to have these conversions and use the conversions in Meez to write your recipe, the final recipe that the cooks look at. You might have prep recipes when they're in the prep kitchen. They take a little more time to weigh everything out, but here, this is exactly what you're seeing. The conversions are exactly there, but they're able to see this with a cup measure, with something that can be physically put on the line or labeled as the shredded mozzarella purple scoop. And we could even create a unit of measure that says that and that calls it the, purple scoop. And we create that unit of measure
Purple
if we
scoop
don't
was always
want to
my
use it
favorite
as a
scoop.
cup. Yep, a purple scoop, and the purple scoop here is going to be either 0.75 of a cup or 80 grams, the portion that we already know that we're getting there, or 81 grams. And then we know that that's exactly how much is going on the pizza every time. And so defining that unit of measure there for me now works as 0.75 of a purple scoop, or we want to make that one full scoop now. We had it as a cup. Now, instead of a cup, they don't even have to fill it 3/4 of the way. They just pick up the purple scoop, fill it the whole way. There's your 81 grams.
So it works visually because the cook is going to see one purple scoop. I can do that. But mathematically, the math is behind that purple scoop. So now Meez knows that that's 81 grams. So your costing is still going to be that laser accuracy that you're looking for, but your team doesn't have to be thinking about how many grams that is ever.
Same thing on your sauce, of course, at 45 grams versus tablespoons or the sauce ladle, whatever you want to create there for a unit. Go ahead, Sarah, though. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I wanted to get into the other visual aspect of this. Like this is super important, but also the plating guide that so it's one thing when it's on the line, but as you're training them before they even get to the line, spending some time walking step by step through those plate guides, I think is really important. And I think you have a nice one on this one.
Yep.
So is there a slideshow?
Yeah. So when you're click into either the slideshow or any step here, this lets you take the text that you've put down, of course, for the step-by-step right under the image. So your team is clicking through a step-by-step build guide, which is as easy as you taking that picture, having somebody there next to the pizzaiolo when they're building that next pizza to just grab a snapshot of the pizza at every stage and build this guide that shows them exactly how you want the pizza to look. And here's how it should look when it comes out of the oven. And then with a quick sprinkle of cheese and Parmesan, and then a random onion chopping video to show that it can also be videos. To show you that these can also be videos, of course. And hopefully you're not having to show your cooks how to chop an onion properly. Although sometimes slicing an onion, it can be important to show them that you want it sliced this way and sliced across instead of the way they would put on the slicer and slice it.
Great.
So two good examples there of really using and leveraging not just the unit of measure conversions, but also creating custom portioning units, custom units of measure that you can create on the fly right in the recipe. And all I have to do is define that purple scoop or that, sauce ladle is in tablespoons, it's in grams, it's in milliliters. Any of those units will work for us.
And just a quick thing to, if you don't mind bringing that back up, Sergio, the thing to, for me at least, as Sarah mentioned, when I was a line cook, it was very difficult to know who had the actual recipe because everybody basically kept their own notebooks. This process of putting in a specific, purple scoop or whatever you want to call it is not just about portion control, though it's a huge part of it. It's also about maintaining consistency so that no matter who's on the line that day, the customer's getting the same product that they're expecting. And I'm sure this panel, I know we've talked about this, I'm sure everybody out there knows, like when you go to a place that you've been to 5 times and the 6th time you go, it's not right, something's off, the portions are off, the flavor's off. It's very disheartening, and you're very likely to just go try somewhere else next time you want to go out. You're probably gonna give up a little bit for at least a little while just because it's a bad look. So this kind of thing is not just, a lot of what Meez offers is not just one particular result, but it has a couple of different aspects. Like training not only helps you with cost control, but it also helps with consistency and retention of your customers.
Yeah, I love that. I also really appreciate that you can use the lexicon of your kitchen, right? Like in defining these units. So like you can call it what your cooks call it. If it's a 2-ounce ladle is a small ladle to you, and then you can create a small ladle, which is 2 fluid ounces. Your cook knows it's the small ladle. Meez knows it's 2 fluid ounces. So it's really creating that bridge between the two.
And Sergio, you can actually,
and this might, oh, sorry, Doug, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you can actually show also, there are those ladles that are in there already, like the numbers label.
Totally. Yeah. So for the pizza sauce here, we can search for ladles. Whoops, if I knew how to spell ladle.
If you type number 6, I think, or
okay, it's portioning scoops then, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So under the numbers there, we have those are platers, scoops, or the ladles themselves. You can define yourself then if they're not in there. What I was also going to call out is that what happens if the purple scoop gets lost? And this might seem really silly, but the notes in Meez let you always, put that in there so that they know, whether you want to add just like purple scoop equals the exact portion that you need or 3/4 of a cup so they can make do with it. You can have all that showing up here in the notes so that if it does get lost, it's all right there for them.
It's great.
Basically putting our unit of measure equivalency on the line there for your cooks to see because they do not have access to this tab when they're viewing. Yeah.
Totally. It's just thinking through the worst case scenario, which is really smart.
Yeah.
But yes. So staff awareness, I know I mentioned the cook doesn't have to know that 81 grams. They don't, but they should be aware of the power that they have, in portioning and the effect that has on the business. Your team is on your side. They're literally your team. So just keeping that in mind and sharing this kind of information, not in a punitive way, not in a, super, again, controlling. I get stuck on that word. It's triggering for me. Can you tell? Anyway, so I wanted to throw this back, way back, to my first front of the house job outside of family restaurants. I think I was like 19, working in a fancy fine dining place. And the new owner who kind of recently came in had come from TGI Fridays back when it was still called TGI Fridays. And you know, all that stuff was on the wall. Anyway, so she had this kind of corporate mentality, which I had never encountered before, kind of growing up in family restaurants. And she was really adamant about using rubber spatulas whenever we had to like change the dressings over at the end of the night. And Sergio, I can see that you have some experience with this as well. But the reason for her was that when you got caught not doing it at TGI Fridays, not using the rubber spatula to get every drop of balsamic dressing out, at TGI's, they would make you watch like a 30-minute seminar that they had recorded of how much money it wasted and how much like food it wasted at TGI's as a corporation. It was like $1.2 million, you know, per dressing or over time. It was ridiculous, but it stuck with me. Okay, this was like more than 20 years ago that we're talking about right now. But it stayed with me. So every time I went to do the dressings, I was like, oh, okay, I got to use the rubber spatula because $1.2 million, like it does stick. So find something that sticks with your team. And this kind of brings me back to the phrase that I recently created that I'm calling the continuum of control. Again, that word. But this is like the amount of control that you have diminishes the closer we get to the moment of service, right? So the moment of execution on the line, you want your cooks focused on two things: quality and speed, frankly, from my perspective. You want consistency and all of the other portion control pieces. That should all be thought of before the moment of service. So just keeping that in mind, that the more planning you can do ahead and setting them up for success. So if they aren't using the same ladle every time, like making sure that is part of their setup, maybe getting a picture of this is what proper morning setup should look like for this station for this, you know, service period. As operators, it's our responsibility to both enable and empower our team to be ready at that moment of service so that they can focus on the things that matter. While still paying attention to the effect that they have directly on our bottom line. That's my soapbox moment. I promise I'll try not to say control anymore for the rest of this webinar.
Yeah. Waste adds up fast. Spoilage, trim, loss, overproduction, all of that. I wanted to quickly add to Sarah's waste story, and I'm sure people on this call can all relate to this. Being the owner guy who, back when I was a young line cook, I thought all owners had some kind of mental disease until I owned my own place. And then I realized I was also susceptible to that same disease. But being the guy who would literally fish up a gallon of mayonnaise that somebody had just dropped in the waste bin and it was sitting there on the top, fishing it out, using the rubber spatula, like Sarah said, to scrape out almost a whole pint of mayonnaise to show that I was the thing. This is a whole pint of mayonnaise that you guys are going to throw, and this was enough for at least 15 sandwiches that you guys are ready to throw in the trash. So we've all seen that, hopefully had, you know, not had to experience that to that level of having to berate cooks, because that's not very effective management. What I would do, of
Does
course,
not work.
when you're at that point, you have to do that because I see that in the trash and I see that as money, of course.
Yes, I get that. I always think about the celery leaves with Mario Batali finding those, the throwback, but like years and years ago, Mario Batali finding celery leaves and freaking out because they were in the garbage and they were the most flavorful part of, you know, the celery. Anyway, let's talk more about waste and how to handle it in Meez. This comes up a lot.
Cool. So waste reductions, one, you know, there's so many different tools in Meez, a few key ones, prep actions, proper yield definitions, and even the utensils that we were just talking about that can really lead to all that waste management and reducing all that waste. Probably the biggest factor, I think, though, that people aren't usually thinking about is scaling a recipe properly and making sure that your cooks, again, as Sarah says, at the moment of execution, at the moment that they need to make the call of how much of this jardiniere to prep for this sandwich when they're looking at a night when they might be making 36 of these. And I'm pretty sure I've used this example before, maybe last week, but let's say 36 sandwiches and you're going to be closed for a week for a break or even an extra 2 days. And the batch for this jardiniere calls for making a whole third pan, which when we look at it, we're like, well, that's a lot. How many portions is that? That's 83.2 portions, and we're looking at selling 36 of these. So that's how Meez can show us how to scale that recipe and say, okay, we want to see maybe 40 portions just to be safe, and scale it to exactly how much you need. Now, in that case, a half batch is probably a little too close to half batch, which is what I wanted to illustrate a lot of people would do. You might have a half batch already written there in your book to make it simple, but it's that granularity of being able to say, okay, it's actually going to be 53 sandwiches. Now, how many portions is that? And 53 sandwiches is a batch that nobody was going to calculate on their own, especially with all these different units of measure. But if your team literally had this at their fingertips to say 53 portions is what we need to prep here, then they're going to prep the exact amount. Again, give yourself a little buffer. If your analytics, if your predictive analytics are showing you're going to do 53, then maybe you prep it at 55 to make sure you don't run out when somebody else wants a sandwich. But your goal is usually to clean out the walk-in when you're going to be closed for a couple of days. So taking this kind of approach to it is going to help you a lot to not have all those empty quarts that break your heart to throw out. You're like, we knew we were going to be closed for a week. Why did they make so much of this? Right?
I get that.
Now, additionally, having those waste calculations, factoring in telling you, all of those prep actions of carrots sliced, celery sliced, that's factoring into a yield loss for these. I'm clicking right into the ingredient to see there are, yield losses associated with these prep actions. So when you're prepping, you're not only seeing how much is being used and what your yield is going to be there, but you're also able to generate a shopping list that's going to be accurate. So generating this export, this order list from here isn't going to give me a short amount of celery or carrots because it's taking into account how much we're going to lose when we slice it, when we peel it, when we trim it. And we're able to get that order list with the right amount, but not too much, because sometimes you might say, last time I did this, we ran out. So I'm going to order an extra bag of carrots just to make sure, but
Oh,
that's way
gosh.
too much. You only needed to make up for about 12% of the loss from peeling and whatnot. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's important. So it both comes through on the costing side, but then also it's taken into account on the ordering. So you're going to see the whole amount in the ordering, and in the costing, you'll see like the amount that was actually utilized and what did you have to purchase in order to process this amount. So that's one way of looking at waste.
Yeah.
What about waste log? How do
So
I'm thinking about running an ice cream shop way back. And how much, like, we just wrote it on a whiteboard, at the end of every day we would add to this whiteboard. And when the whiteboard filled up, we would then process. Maybe it was at the end of the month, but sometimes honestly, it was in 2 weeks, depending upon whose handwriting was up there. So how do you track waste in Meez?
So for those of you using our inventory tool, our inventory feature is giving you the ability to create as many count sheets as you need for every sheet to shelf area of your restaurant, the walk-in number 2, the meat walk-in, the liquor cage. And what we're suggesting is creating a count sheet called monthly waste log. And like Sarah says, this might be tracked on a whiteboard throughout the month. It might be tracked on a clipboard where you're just writing down everything that's going to get tossed. That was my MO, was telling the cooks, I care less about you throwing it away than you not logging it. I need to know. And of course, yes, if you're throwing it away because you weren't watching it because you over-ordered too much, then we need to address that as well. But more importantly is we need to track it. So as they're writing it on the board, on a clipboard, at the end of the month, all of this can be entered into your waste log here, which can be recipes as well as ingredients, of course, that we start putting in here, and we're able to put those in and keep a track of those. So now I'm creating the sheet. So then when I went back into my inventory and started counting, then throughout the month or at the end of the month, I can take those clipboards, that whiteboard, and enter in that we lost either grams or we lost a couple of quarts of tomato sauce and a gallon of milk. And that's all going to give me a line item on my inventory report that I know I need to back out of my inventory, not of my inventory, but that this is going to be shrink or loss. My
Right. So when you're
inventory count-
tossing that over to accounting, like here's our standing inventory, and then here's how much food got wasted. Like so that when they're looking at the difference between theoretical and actual food costs and trying to identify the difference in the delta here, you can say, well, this much was wasted. So is the rest theft? Did we not track? Are there POS analytics that we can look at for like misfires or things along those lines? Trying to identify that space of what happened in the story of the financial picture is really crucial. It's also kind of handy that in
to Jessica, shrink would be the same as waste. Sorry, I just wanted to answer that.
Yes.
My brain had to kick into the term shrink when I entered retail back in 2007. I was like, waste, and then I was like, shrink. What the heck is shrink? It's a nice way of saying waste.
Yes. It's one handy feature of Meez inventory is that you can start a count sheet that is empty and just add items on the fly. And so then the next time you come back to that count sheet, it will be empty again. But same principle here, we're going to submit this as a separate line item, a separate count, that this is our waste count versus our inventory count. You can do both in Meez and track them. But speaking of financial picture, I want to include Doug back in this conversation and talk purchasing, because that's the next spot that we're going to go. And that's where we're spending the money. So kind of the first thing that we think about when it comes to controlling, I said it, costs. So Doug.
Covered portioning and use in the kitchen. We've covered waste, but what about purchasing? And I think a vast majority of the people that join me, that I've met at least, don't have great insight into where their money is going. Like they have to look through invoices. If they can see it, likely as their staff can't. Like the system they're using is not really set up for their staff. So I wanted to quickly mention that a lot of you, if you signed up for Meez on the premium level or above in the way back days, now it's cost management. There's different phrases for it, but essentially, if you sign up for invoice processing, there's a reports tab on the invoice processing module. So remember, this is meez.restaurantinvoices.com. And if you go to this reports tab, the more invoices you're sending through, all of this data from your invoices is being collated, it's being digitized, and it's become searchable. So you can see on this reports tab your category breakdowns. For this particular account, we actually have custom GL codes already in here, so you can also sign up for that tier. Otherwise, it's just going to be your basic food, beverage, operating expenses. But you can see the breakdown very clearly over this range of months, the second half of last year, and very quickly analyze kind of where your money has been going and month over month, whether that makes sense. You can compare this obviously year after year too, and give yourself even greater insights to see kind of where, whether something has been going wrong. For instance, maybe October, a bit strange with the food costs here. Why was that? What you can dive deeper into it and find out. There's actually going to be more options right below here. The report section can also be filtered by vendor. So if you're having these, quarterly, however often you're meeting with your vendors and discussing pricing, just being able to jump into your different vendors and see exactly what you're spending on them, pull up their competitors and see what you're spending on them, price comp a little bit with them, and let them know what you're spending on their competitors. All of this data just gives you the knowledge to be able to have these discussions a lot more intelligently, a lot more, with conviction, and be able to have a plan basically, to somehow bring down the costs of your purchasing or trim it wherever you can. So this is kind of the big picture purchasing dashboard, your macro. The other tabs, price history, will bring you to the item specific breakdown. So
yeah, this is the good stuff.
This is where most people want to really spend their time and checking out what's going on, where they're spending their money, what's going up and down in terms of price volatility, price trends. All of your invoice data is automatically logged here. You're not doing any of this except sending us an invoice. And from there, you can see, okay, let's just look at price increased and take that filter off And there you go. Now we're looking at just price increase. You can even sort by your total spend to see the stuff that you're buying the most of, and how much is going up over time. If you want to look into the invoice data, you can see right there the different invoices you bought in and when it jumped over and how long it's been that way. I don't really need to tell you all the different ways you can use this information. You probably list a dozen right off the top of your head. It's obviously very powerful to be able to search these items, right from here to find the items that are most crucial for you. We all say proteins, obviously, but finding the stuff that you're using a lot of, like butter and hamburger buns and anything like that, to quickly search and find that information, and then be able to make very quick decisions up based on it. All of these things are at the tip of your fingers, and you can even add your executive chefs, you can add your sous chefs, you can add your kitchen managers, anybody who's really should have eyes on this, who you want to give that kind of responsibility to. It's very easy for them to just have an account here too, and they can be expected to kind of manage this, on your behalf too.
It really gives you visibility into what's happening with your vendors, which is great. And I want to just highlight a point that you made there, Doug, because you said, when you're having your purchasing conversations with your vendors, make sure that you're having your purchasing conversations on a regular cadence. Maybe set a reminder every 6 months, every quarter. What is it? Where you are having a conversation about the price of things, not just sitting down to do an order over a cup of coffee every week, but really, again, working on your business, not just in your business. I want to double down on this because this is amazing for tracking vendor items, right? So speccing out, I'm going to buy this particular type of French fry from this brand, from this vendor. This allows you, this is the purchasing dashboard, and this allows you to kind of track what happens with that spec over time. But this again is where Meez gets super powerful. And Doug, I want to steal the screen, please, to get into Meez Analytics, which is in your Meez account. Just a moment, please. So this is one of the analytic blocks. There are many here on the analytics side of Meez. So when you go to this page initially, you're going to see menu insights and engineering. If you scroll down, I'm looking specifically at ingredient usage by % of sales. So when you're having these conversations with your vendor, we know that they're running a business, right? We know they need to make money. So it does not make sense to be bullish about every single ingredient. You should be bullish, frankly, about the ingredients that make the most impact on your bottom line. And this chart speaks directly to that. So first of all, to the point of, rather than speaking about specs, if I'm just looking at the ingredient ground beef, 1 week I bought it from this mainline vendor, the next week another mainline vendor, I can map all purchases of ground beef, regardless of vendor, regardless of spec even, to the ingredient ground beef. And I can now see the impact that ground beef has on my weekly menu sales. So in this case, again, Doug, you had mentioned protein is our obvious, like that center of the plate sort of generic thought is, of course, that's going to have the most impact. And in fact, it does, according to this chart, based on our sales. That contributes 8.69% of our food costs comes from ground beef. So if we can stabilize the price of ground beef at this burger shop, that's going to have the biggest impact. But two other ingredients here, both of the ones kind of in that yellowish gold, are also contributing a significant amount. And when combined, almost equal to the ground beef, are the French fries and the bun. Who's thinking about the bun? Maybe actually stabilizing these prices, which might be an easier conversation to have with the vendor, and getting a break there is going to have a huge impact on your bottom line and your food cost percentage, even more so than cheese, which might be, the next thought that you have, because cheese is expensive. Maybe not American cheese. And I know I'm showing that while we have a cheese guy in the room, but this is super useful. Take it down to one menu and filter to see, based on your sales that you put in, which ingredients are having the impact. The ones at the bottom, the 0.03%, you should not be having a conversation about ketchup, right? So if the price goes up on ketchup, it's okay. In this instance, for every restaurant owner, this is going to be different based on your menu, your recipe data, and your sales. So that's one conversation to have, and one kind of way to arm yourself for those conversations. But then also, so there's so much pretty data in here, and we know
If I,
the charts.
if I can interrupt quickly while you're scrolling through them, Sarah, I
Yeah,
think
go for it.
this is exactly why the accuracy of recipes is so important with your menu. In so many scenarios that I saw and that I was sold and pitched on before a tool like Meez existed, it was, looking at your whole menu and this item's food cost is this, and this is what it's doing for you on your menu. But how to really extract that data, like what Sarah was just showing, of which ingredients are driving your food cost. The assumption is always it's the protein, it's the protein, it's the protein. But there
Right.
are so many things on your menu that are going to impact the price of those menu items, or so many things on your inventory
It's the
list.
bun.
The bun. Yep.
Who knew?
Yep. Those
Yeah,
seasoned fries keep climbing in price. Yep.
totally. Yeah. We saw that in the purchasing dashboard as well, but it's also reflected here. So like if you see that that's going up in your purchasing dashboard and you know that that's one of your top 3, top 5 on this chart, those are the ingredients you care about. This is your hit list. Moving forward from that, I think it's also important to point this one out. This is another one of my favorites. So this is the price volatility chart. So this has the top 10 ingredients with the most volatile prices. We can also change this, by the way. I actually set it to top 25. So even though that says top 10, you can decide by hitting the filter button. But there are a couple of things in here where, you can kind of drill in and look at chicken bones. Pork loin was one that, like, the minimum price that we paid was $2.15 a pound, but then somehow we also eventually paid $8.39 a pound. That's a huge range. What's happening there? Let's get that price stabilized over time. But maybe actually we don't care about pork loin because it doesn't show up in our top 10 in our hit list. So maybe this is okay. Maybe that's up to you to decide as the operator. But this is where you can kind of drill in and get that information about what should I be worried about, because you cannot put out every fire. You will exhaust yourselves. Take it from us. You know this yourselves anyway, but really paying attention and putting your energy where it matters most is going to have the greatest effect and be the most sustainable thing over time for your business.
So maybe on that note, we just quickly check what happens when you do change. And I know we did a little bit of this last week, but what happens when you do change the cost of something, the items in a recipe, and seeing that impact right in your menu. Obviously we don't want you to shouldn't be changing everything, all of your costs on your menu at once. So how do you kind of discern that? How do you make those decisions? So
Oh, you're talking like price adjustments. That's a hot topic right now.
yeah.
Yes. So where and when should you make those decisions about when to increase a price? Like, when are we passing that on to the customer? Do we have examples of this? Serge, do you want to show?
Yeah.
So I think go ahead.
Yeah. So when we're looking at making a price change here, sorry, I got to get an analytics up here on the board. When we're looking at making those price changes here, we want to look at a couple of things. We want to start by looking at our menu and seeing those, those reports of which items are really making us money. We're looking at our dog star charts. Stars, high profit, high sales. We kind of want to leave those alone, right? But there might become a time when, if this needed adjustment in the profitability side, it wouldn't be in our star quadrant. But if it's in our star quadrant here, we probably don't want to mess with the price of this too much. Important thing to look at too, and actually let me just pull up the same menu that we're looking at here. So as we're looking at these sell prices over the analytics, and we might get to a point where we know that, hey, we would sell a lot more of this item if it came down in price, or we need to raise the price of something to make it more profitable. Now, there's also the psychology of how much can we raise a price? When we raise the price of this pork and pickles to $21 from 19, our sales dropped on it. Because there is that psychological threshold of breaking, from 19 to 20, from $9 to 10, even more when you go from single digits to double digits to what they see on the menu on an appetizer. So we want to make sure that if we're pushing it past one of those, like from 19 to 20 or 21, that it's absolutely necessary, that your food cost was running so high that you had to do that. In this case, at 15.71, we probably would have been just fine at the $19, and we're still making a good profit margin on that sandwich. And maybe that's going to boost our sales up so that we look at it and, pick up our sales. We sell 1,000 more of those like we had done the year before. And then we see our menu cost improving, even though the cost is higher, but we're selling 1,000 more units. So our menu cost did drop, and our profit, of course, went up as well.
Smart change to make. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a smart change that was actually a price coming down. And then of course we look at something like this menu's all over the place. We're selling 12,000 of a sandwich at 22.50. We're not going to touch that one. How much better can we do on that? People are willing to pay that. So again, these are numbers that get plugged into our demo accounts that sometimes don't make sense. Real life numbers tend to make more sense.
Listen, this is just a demographic that really likes an Italian sandwich.
They really like the Italian. They're willing to pay
It's a
for it.
good one.
But then again, you might get into something like your coleslaw at 37% food cost, or chicken and slaw sandwich. That should be a better cost there. So we want to raise this price. Taking it from $8 to 10 might push it past where we want it to be. Here it's going to improve our cost, but marginally, only 5 points there. This could be a situation where, hey, this is a full sandwich after all. We're charging $22.50 for one, so $11 for this one is definitely making us money. It's definitely dropping our food costs some more, even though we're raising the price because we're selling more units.
Yeah, I think this is an important, thing to remember. At the same time, I know how easy it is to just kind of rip shot, change things or forget to even pay attention to these things. So again, this is another thing that I would put on the calendar to remind yourself to do once a quarter, to examine this in menu engineering, tool around. Meez is the only tool that I know of where you can play. This is a sandbox that's made for you to kind of see what would happen if, and pay attention to the logic of, if I raise that price, I'm probably going to sell fewer, if that makes sense. But what impact does that have on my cost, on my revenue, on my profit? That can all be done here, but it only works if you use it. So again, put a reminder on your calendar to check in once a quarter so that you're not making price change decisions kind of willy-nilly, so that your customers don't experience that sort of instability, that they also feel consistency. This should be something that you are looking at and making decisions based off of on a regular basis. With that, we had a request, Serge, from Jody. She said, perhaps I missed it, but does Meez have a cost per plate option since we put our recipes in here? So maybe we should just roll back to the food cost calculator really quickly.
You got it.
And roll through that. And then for everybody else, we're about to enter the Q&A session. So if there are questions that we want to talk about, please put them in the chat or the Q&A box. I don't know why there's two, but there it is.
So to calculate your plate cost, your theoretical cost, this is perfect because we haven't used the calculator yet, but we calculated this pizza cost to give us, let's see, let's get more costs in there. There we go. To give us a cost of $3.58 per pizza. And so from here, to use the cost calculator here, we're simply going to say the same portion size, one pizza, unless we were selling it by the slice, and then we could say the pizza equals 8 slices, but let's say one pizza. So there's our cost of $3.58. Now your plate cost, you can use any of these factors to calculate, of course. You could either just plug in, here's how much we're charging for it, $14.99. There's our current food cost, and there's how much money we're putting in the bank each time we sell one. Now, any of these factors can be what determines and what calculates the other factors. So maybe we want to put $12.50 in the bank every time we sell one of these. So then that would mean increasing our price to $16. Or again, like we were talking about price changes, $16 might not make sense anyway, and maybe $15.99 is where we want to put it to keep the customer happy, and that's not really moving the needle much on our food costs. We're still putting $12.41 as profit and seeing our food cost here. So here's calculating our entire plate costs, which we can then plug into our menu, of course, and say that's the price we want on our menu. These do not carry over into the menu. The menu is you're going to be your actual snapshot of what you have it on your menu in your restaurant at what it's in the point of sale as, what it's going to transfer when you do that export and then import into Meez from. So in here can just be your calculator, your sandbox to say, okay, the price has to be $15.99. And then here is where at $15.99, maybe we want to shave off a little bit of the cheese, make it a half cup to improve that profit a little more, and see any of those changes you're making are going to be impacting that cost in real time right here. Minimal changes, so they don't seem to be moving the needle much.
Right. So this is a great way to play with the recipe to kind of nail that down. But then the menus feature that Sergio was showing, that's where you can see the impact of all of your recipes and all of your plate costs weighted by how much of each of them you're selling. That's then your menu food cost percentage, and that's giving you an overall picture of the profit and revenue that you're pulling in from those specific dishes. So the two together is really the ideal, but the building blocks come from that recipe calculator.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers that. Did we want to get into any real life examples of what customers have done using these? I know there were a couple of those in there. I haven't seen any other questions yet at this point.
So yeah, talking results. After Meez has been around about 5 years now, conservative estimates that our marketing team has taken from customers, doing interviews, doing case studies, we're showing Meez users trimming as much as 3 to 5% off their actual food cost in the first year using Meez. What does that mean, 3 to 5%? If your restaurant is small mom and pop shop grossing as little as 1 million a year, which is not big numbers for a restaurant, that's $30,000 to $50,000 in savings that you spend less on food over the year. That's a big number. That's nothing to sneeze at. And of course, most restaurants are hopefully doing significantly more than 1 million a year in sales. So those numbers are only growing. And we're talking about specifically just using features like putting the recipes in front of your cook so they are executing those recipes. Taking restaurants who really couldn't answer the question when we first talked about what is your team looking at for recipes? Oh, they're in a binder. Sometimes they just know them off the top of their head. Let's make sure that they're making the same recipes with the same amounts. We talked about this 2 weeks ago, your recipes being essentially a blueprint for your business to whether it's going to be successful. And hopefully we're breaking this down more and more, so that's making more sense. Obviously, it's a recipe for deliciousness, for your signature flavors, for your brand of what your customers are coming to you for. But then those little minute points of those portion controls, those little things are literally making the blueprint of you're going to float or sink.
Right. I wanted to throw this back to what I said in the very beginning. Very few of our customers are doing every single thing that we talked about today. So I know that everything that we just went over can seem incredibly overwhelming, and please do not let perfect be the enemy of good here. Many of our customers who are seeing real results are implementing one or two things at a time and focusing on the training or focusing on understanding their menu costs. Pick one. That's what I meant at the beginning of this. Like, take one thing away from today's webinar and you will start to see a real impact on your bottom line by utilizing that. I also wanted to shout out that our next webinar, if you are interested in building a menu in Meez, we are doing an interactive workshop for the first time ever here at Meez. We'll see how that goes tech-wise. But we're going to build a menu together, like step by step. So not just recipes, building into that menu so that you can see a full picture of your food costs. We're going to do that live, one at a time. And that is on Tuesday, June 10th at 12 p.m. Eastern as well.
Same place, same time, 2 weeks from now.
There you go, 2 weeks. Also, there was another thing you said in there, Serge, about just, that you're a small business. I forgot to mention this earlier, when we talk about the purchasing conversations that you're having with your vendors. When I was like consulting for really small, like mom and pop shops, or when I was running my own mom and pop shop, I didn't think that I had the power to have those conversations or that I was justifiable to have purchasing conversations. It absolutely is. And I want to tell you this from the perspective of the vendor. If you are running a small business, you are their most valuable customer because you are not part of a large buying group. You're not getting deep discounts on XYZ. You don't have big, high volume contracts. So you are paying a little bit more for that food, and that makes you a very valuable customer to them. So remember that when you get to that table, but also remember to focus on your hit list of ingredients and not worry about every single penny on every single ingredient. So that you can have successful conversations. Like, come to that table empowered, make sure you're scheduling those meetings, and make sure that you have the data to back what you're asking for.
Yeah. And also along those lines is make sure you're negotiating on the correct quantity of a product that you need to buy. And in this conversation, I just want to make sure that we're not giving kind of the wrong idea out there. You might, your vendor is going to be more than happy to say, yes, I can give you a huge savings if you buy a pallet of that flour. But do you have the cash flow to buy a pallet of that flour, or the storage space for that matter?
Yeah, where's that going to sit?
And so, yeah, you might be looking at something, I'm going to come back to cheese as I did 2 weeks ago with, hey, this Reggiano cost is steep. We're buying it by the quarter wheel, and your vendor is going to come back to you and say, oh, you buy the whole wheel, I'm going to give you a much better deal, $2 a pound less. But then your owner is going to say, you just spent $1,000 on cheese. It's going to take us months to go through. So sometimes you are getting the right price for the quantity you need to purchase. That's going to be what you use in the right amount of time. So make sure that you're looking at those as well, of course.
Doug, it's really hard to get a word in edgewise when the two of us are going down this rabbit hole.
We'll just quickly plug, going back to what you said, Sarah, about just like not a lot of people in our world are using all of these tactics. So which are the best tactics to use? And you might run up against a wall where you're not sure and you want any help. One of the things that we're really proud of here in the Meez on our team is the Meez community. And we have this open to everybody here. Anybody who's a customer and who's not, honestly, can join the Meez community, and you can put questions like this in to like the group. It can be to us. Other people in the community can chime in. It's a great place to ask these questions, to say, I'm spending this much on scallops in this area. Does anyone know? Like you can just, throw these things out here, and let us kind of see if we can help kind of connect you. Maybe another chef will jump in and give you some advice. And it's just a great place to kind of have these conversations, because you're definitely going to, come to a point where you're not sure about what to do next. So it's very important to kind of reach out and, start building these connections to work with each other and, learn from each other.
And us, we're also happy to get involved and guide you strategically if you want to know which direction to take based on your business type or where you're at, life cycle stage, all of that stuff. It's pretty obvious from the way that we have, we can't stop talking about it, but we enjoy going down these rabbit holes for how to stay in business and how to do better in your business in the food world. It's our jam. Okay, so if there are no other questions, I am going to post a quick survey in the chat. I'm going to save your inbox, your email inbox. I'm not going to send this via email this time. So if you would be so kind to take 1 minute and fill out that survey, it should only take you a minute. We just want to know, what to talk about next time and what helped. If there's one takeaway that you have from this webinar, throw it in the chat. What are you going to focus on in particular? But otherwise, this was lovely, guys, jamming out on food costs, showing off all the tools in Meez. Yeah. Nobody does it all, so please don't feel like you have to.
Thank you all for attending.
Thanks, everyone.
We appreciate your time. Thank you. Talk soon.